I'm Aaron Householter.
And I'm Jon Blanchard.
You're tuned in and watching the Amazing Ex-Mayor's Show. Well, here we are the night before the election, or if you're watching tomorrow, the day of the election. We want to encourage you to get out and vote, and we're going to go over some reasons why you should probably vote for Jon Blanchard, because he attended the meeting tonight and stumped the two incumbents that are running and basically showed why they shouldn't be in charge of our community. But we'll kind of cover everything as we usually do. Once again, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to share these videos and to like the Amazing Ex-Mayor's page. Jon, let's just get into it.
Well, if you're watching this on Tuesday, then vote today.
Yeah, that's right. Vote today. No longer can vote
today
downtown.
Is Tuesday for you. Vote today.
Right. You can no longer vote down at the courthouse.
Right. It's all live now, baby.
It's all in your precinct.
It's old school now.
Yeah, so you got to get it. I went out and voted today, and I'm glad to say I voted for, of course, Jon. I stuck with the ones I thought would do well. James Bowdy, young guy, Ben Pruitt, Mr. Anti-Tax himself. He just seems like.
Well, those are my picks. My picks are if this is an endorsement show,
right?
And for the reasons I would do it is, I like fresh ideas, and I like people that have guts that will stand up and say no. I tell you what, this city commission now is so weak-kneed, and they care more about themselves and their friends than they do all of the taxpayers.
Right.
And if you get a chance, I think that the meeting from tonight is one of those meetings that when you look back on, will go, that's the perfect example of people that get elected and work for themselves instead of the taxpayers. You know, we're telling employees that, sorry, you can't get raises. We're not going to hire any new hires. We're going to cut some of the things that we need to do.
Right.
And hey, taxpayers, we're going to have to jack up your water and sewer bills. Your taxes have gone up 18% over the last 2 years. Sales tax revenues are a joke, so your property taxes are about to explode even worse.
Right, to cover the loss.
We're raising all of your taxes, and we're telling employees you have to do more with less, and we're cutting your taxes, and we're delivering fewer services.
Right, you're raising your taxes, delivering less services.
But what we're talking about here is that when given an opportunity to bring in tax revenue that you've been pretty neglectful about in the past. And basically, you haven't had people that are creative enough and think outside of the box enough to come up with ideas about how we bring in more revenue. Well, I came up with that idea.
Right.
And I came up with a great idea, and I kind of ran it by city commission, city attorney and stuff. They kind of went through their scenarios. And that's what happened at the meeting today.
Let me just kind of cue the audience in. If you haven't watched the earlier show that we did, we talked about how when streets and gutters and special assessments, which we haven't always been a big fan of for various reasons, but when those go in on new developments, until the builder builds a new home, they still have an agricultural rating or designation, and they only bring in about $5 a year, whereas the average lot would bring in $750. So Jon went out and looked and said, "Hey." We've talked to the state about changing the law to get that changed.
Right.
But Jon had an idea where he said, let's make that part of our agreement. If these builders want special assessment financing, then the least they can do is start paying the lot taxes as soon as those streets and stuff are in, because maintenance starts at that minute. How did that go down in the meeting today?
Okay. Well, here's how it went. I showed up, and they had gone through a long scenario of, well, this is what we'd have to do, and this is maybe why it wouldn't work. Okay, they went through a couple of different scenarios. Well, they had one scenario where they said, by using a development agreement, which is a contract between the developer and the city, where the city says, if you want the taxpayers to finance the building of your infrastructure, then you have to agree to waive your right to do agricultural uses on that lot. Once you have streets and water and sewer, you've already got it zoned for residential. Its infrastructure is for residential purposes, but these guys for years have basically manipulated the system to only pay $4 a year because they claimed it was an agricultural use.
Right.
So the development agreement says if you want to have your development financed, then you have to agree not to use it for agriculture, which means there's no way the assessor would assess it for agriculture if you weren't using it for agriculture.
Right.
And so it was a difference between $4 a year and $750 a year. And they found reasons why, well, we can't do it because you'd have to tell the assessor this and the other. The bottom line is this. The penalty would be, if you breach the contract, then you pay off the entire balance of your special assessments.
Right.
Well, that's something the city hadn't thought about.
Right.
And so they talked about it a little bit. The city attorney actually very thoughtfully called timeout. You know, I'm not a big fan of the city attorney saying, can we get a break here? I want to go in the hallway and talk with the other attorney and the city manager about some of these things.
Right.
They did that. And I'm not a big fan of it normally.
Right.
But in this case, they wanted to get a good answer, and they wanted to get it quick.
Right.
Well, they basically came back and said there's no problem with doing it the way that Mr. Blanchard proposed it. In fact, that's probably a reasonable way to make sure taxpayers get their money.
Right.
Well, four of the commissioners decided they liked doing it the way they did by giving Kelly Dunn and his friends the money. Here's how big the difference in the money is. I did a spreadsheet where I looked at 6 years of Stone Lake, because Stone Lake has only been there for 6 years. It's the one out at south of town where there's some lakes and the big houses, and it's taken a long time to fully develop. Well, they've been collecting taxes on that for 6 years. Over 6 years, they have collected $84,000. That's with the agriculture valuations and then new houses going on it. Well, if they had been collecting the vacant lot fee from the time the infrastructure was in, we would have already had $210,000 in the bank.
Right.
So we did two things. One is that we didn't collect $115,000, and in essence, the developers got to keep that money, and it should have been put in the bank to help pay for the maintenance of that down the road.
Right.
But now all of the rest of the residents of the city of Salina have to make that $115,000.
Right.
Now, here's another problem with the way they do it, is that I showed up with the spreadsheet. I'm just a citizen, okay?
Right.
But I made the spreadsheet, and I went back and I added up what the city was losing. I got up and I asked the city commission, I said, do you guys have any idea how much money you've left on the table, taxpayer dollars that you should have been collecting over the years? And Mayor Davis said to me, well, I haven't, but didn't have any reason to go look that up.
Right, even though it's his job.
Well, it is his job.
I mean, that's part of it. I mean, these guys think that you can just get on-the-job training, but the thing is, if you don't look at all aspects of the way cities run, something that Jon and I did, we didn't just wait for the meetings to show up and vote what was there. We were looking ahead to think, how can we do our community?
Right.
How can we lower fees? How can we get wages up? All these things.
Well,
but he thinks it's not my job.
Right.
Yeah, it is your job.
Well, but his words were, I didn't have any reason to do it. My response to him was, oh, I had a lot of reasons to do it. I had 115,000 reasons to do it. I didn't say that, but I said, I had a reason to do it. I cared about how much money we were asking from the taxpayers when we weren't willing to get that money ourselves.
Right.
Now you have a way to get that money. I expect you to do everything you can possibly do to get that money, because we're talking about $115,000 over 6 years for only 34 lots. Multiply that times
all the other
15 years. Multiply that times 15 years, times all the subdivisions we've had over those 15 years, times all the lots in those subdivisions.
Right.
I did quick math on it. It's at least $2.5 million over 15 years.
That we've lost.
It's $200,000 a year, easily, and that's $500,000.
Right.
So your taxes are $500,000 higher, at least, than they otherwise would need to be. But they're higher than that anyways, because our valuation has been kept artificially low by valuing those lots as $100 for agriculture versus $40,000 for a vacant lot.
Or higher.
So the bottom line is this. I think this day will go down for two reasons. Two reasons why it's a big day. One is that you see how people in your community that live high on the hog and don't give a crap about the working class people in this town, all these people, it doesn't bother them. If their taxes go up $300, $400 a year, it doesn't bother them at all. We're the ones that have to pay for it. Working people,
Right?
And a lot of older people on fixed incomes, they don't care about it. It's like going, hey man, I'm a big time doctor. Hey, I go around like ripping people off who's are grieving their dead relatives.
Right.
They don't care.
Right.
And so, I mean, it really showed these people for who they truly are.
Right.
They don't care about you.
So how did the vote turn out?
It turned out predictable, 1-4.
So Melissa voted against it, obviously.
Melissa said she thinks that it's unfair that they really need to collect as much tax dollars as they can.
So what did our man Carl say?
Oh, Carl, geez, we can't change their business model. This is their business model, and
yeah. Their business model, that's his phrase.
Yeah, our business model is cheating on our taxes.
Right, and that's what it is. So remember that tomorrow when you're voting. And what was Trent's reasoning?
Oh, Trent's was, John, I wish you would have brought this up to us sooner. It's like going, you know what? You're a commissioner. You have a brain. Why the hell couldn't you think of this?
Right.
You're the one telling the voters, oh, hey, vote for me. I got all kinds of great ideas. And then you ask me why I couldn't come up with this 3 years ago? I don't know, because 3 years ago I had even better ideas that you guys wouldn't go along with.
Right. I was just going to say that.
I mean, one of them was, hey, how about we don't give special assessment financing to people that don't pay their property taxes?
Right.
Yet
right.
What do? 3 weeks ago at a meeting, Kelly Dunn was in asking for more special assessments. He's really loading up to the government teat.
Right.
And I tell you what, and I sat up there and I said, do you guys know that the applicants for this don't have property taxes that they owe to the city and county? Oh, yeah, we checked into it. Well, today they had to admit that, oh, no, we actually checked into it. Mr. Dunn actually did owe some back taxes, but he's paid them up right away. I'm sure he did.
Wonder who
he came back looking for more money.
Wonder who he borrowed money from.
Who knows? But I mean, the point is that... Well,
we know who we borrowed money from last time.
Listen, the point is this. The point is this. These guys don't even follow the rules.
Right.
Staff doesn't make them. You know what? I was really disappointed in Dan Stack.
Why?
Well, because Dan was the guy that stood up there and go like, oh, yeah, they did. We verified. No, you didn't.
Oh, that's odd
verify.
for Dan.
It is odd for Dan. But you know what? I praise Dan all the time.
Yeah.
And so, you know what, Dan? When you screw up, you got to get called on that, too.
That's true. That's true.
And Dan does. And Dan is my go-to guy, though.
I know. Dan's a good guy.
But Dan really dropped the ball on that one. And in true fashion, it's like, no, they say, oh, no, they did it. And then, of course, none of the commissioners.
Right.
It's like, I mean, people should know by now. I don't show up to city commission meetings and ask questions I don't know the answers to. Right. I knew the answer. I knew that Kelly Dunn had outstanding.
Right.
I caught him in a lie. Like normal.
Right.
I mean, that's what we're dealing with, folks, is that these people, they don't... Listen, the Salina Journal is so lame that they're not... I mean, they're there, but they don't know what they're looking for.
Right.
And you've got... I mean... It still blows me away, Trent Davis, I didn't have any reason to look for why we're not charging property taxes to people that owe them.
Right. We've only been talking about special assessments for, 8 years?
8 years.
Right.
Oh, I wish you had this. I had better ideas 8 years ago. I had better ideas 3 years ago.
Here's an idea. If you don't know, don't go forward with it.
Yeah.
I would say sometimes the best action is no action at all.
Hey, and you know what? These guys talk about, oh, we need more lots. We're just selling so many houses and everything.
Right.
Back like 4 years ago, they were building half as many houses as they used to. They used to build like 80 houses a year, and of course the housing study said, "Oh, we need to build 116 houses a year." And it's like going, "Yeah, okay." Well, actually, what the number was 4 years ago was about 48 houses a year. You know what it was last year? You know how many new home permits they had last year?
24. Oh, 24. Oh,
wow!
I almost said 24. Yeah.
It's
There's just such a demand.
Listen, they lie, they manipulate. They do whatever they can do to find loopholes to get out of paying their fair share.
And they pump a bunch of money into candidates.
And then they pay a bunch of money to prop up candidates.
Right.
And then, you know what? Then they sit around and they act like, oh, well, we'll be disrupting a business model, and I like the free market to work for itself. Really? What part of the government paying all your bills and letting you get away with not paying your taxes is a free market?
Right. And just to confirm, we did look again, and... Jody Ryan is still listed as the exclusive seller of Kelly Dunn homes.
Specializing in new construction.
Right, new construction. Now, why do you think her husband would be voting on that? That's a local conflict of interest.
Let's do as much new construction as we could possibly get away with.
That's Carl Ryan. So I hope you guys will remember that tomorrow when you're voting. We'll let you go early tonight. It's kind of a long, I don't know how long.
It's a long day. Hey, let's do a Facebook Live tomorrow.
We might do a Facebook Live tomorrow. We're keep in mind, I think last check, Carl had spent about $10,000. Doc had spent about how much?
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? You spent $0. That was your goal.
Spent $0.
$0 this year.
And you know what? Ben Pruitt's been out beating the bushes for votes, talking to people, talking to friends, getting people going.
Right.
James Bowden, I think, has done an excellent job of going around knocking on doors, hanging door hangers, doing stuff on Facebook. Most everybody's gone to most of the forums. I'll tell you what, for first-time candidates, I'll even throw it out there that I think for a first-time candidate, Rod Franz has done a really good job.
Right, yeah.
And so...
we don't want Rod in there, but we think he did a good job as a candidate.
I have Rod's a bureaucrat. And
he is.
He's a nice guy. I like Rod.
Agreed.
But he's an old retired city worker bureaucrat.
We already had that with Kay Crawford. We don't need another.
Listen, we need fresh, new blood. And that's why I like James Bowden and I like Ben Pruitt.
Yeah,
and it's like, you know what? These are guys that, hell, I'm rough around the edges.
Right.
Everybody's going to be rough around the edges.
Nobody's as smooth as those three, operators that are out there that are coming out of office.
Nobody's as smooth as Carl Ryan.
Yeah. Oh, God. Anyway. All right. Well, share the video. Get out there and vote. It really is important that you vote. It's important to show people that you can spend $0 and still get elected in this town versus somebody who spends $10,000.
Right.
So it's important that you get out and show these jokers who have been wasting your tax dollars and have zero desire. I mean, the video, we'll post the video where you can hear them say, yeah, we don't really care. It's their business model. Screw the taxpayer.
Yeah.
And those are the people that want your vote tomorrow.
Right.
Don't give it to them. Boot them out. Show the next few years of commissioners that, hey, we're watching. We're holding your feet to the fire. You're going to do right by us, the taxpayer, and you're not going to do favors for your friends no matter how much money you spend on your election.
Well, and
I wish you the best of luck tomorrow spending $0.
I appreciate it, man. And if I could just take a minute to kind of close out.
Okay.
And I would just say that, when we announced back in June that I had filed, I think there were probably some people that thought, well, geez, this guy's now going to be sucking up to, people in the chamber and the builders and all this. And it's like going, you know what? I hope that you've continued to view these shows and see that nothing changed. We're still out there fighting for you and bringing up the issues that we think are important to working class people and people that are working multiple jobs and on fixed incomes. So, regardless of how I do tomorrow, we're still going to continue to bring the issues to light. We're still going to keep working. So we're going to ask you to keep watching, and we're going to ask you to keep sharing these videos and commenting. But I just want to thank all of you out there who have been taken signs, sent messages, have made real positive comments, and even comments that aren't technically positive, but they're constructive.
Right.
And so I appreciate that. Maybe some things I hadn't thought of. So I appreciate all of that feedback from people. And agree or disagree, I think that more information is helpful for me. So I certainly appreciate that.
There you go.
I think, I'm going to work for everybody, whether you vote for me or not. So maybe share these last few videos, get out and vote, encourage others to vote. But I just want all of you to know that I appreciate everything you've done to help make this a true grassroots effort.
There you go.
So thank you, and go vote.